Hi, my name's Scott Craven. I'm a part-time librarian's assistant at the Ossining Public Library. In this time of social distancing and our physical libraries closed, we're still trying to connect you with information that'll help you on a daily basis. To that end, I'm standing here in Crawbucky Nature Preserve, the bottom of Beach Road off North Highland Avenue in Ossining. A fantastic place to be and a fantastic place to bird. I'm going to talk to you today about birding and some of the resources that the Ossining Public Library can hook you up with, some of the local places to go, and some of the local groups that'll help you out. There was an op-ed in the New York Times a couple weeks ago by David Sibley, and apparently our staying at home and social distancing has created another uptick in birding. Seeing as most of the 45 million birders in the United States are backyard birders, that would make sense, and it's a great thing to take up, especially with your kids, and we are living in a fantastic area to do it and a great place to see birds with a tremendous amount of resources around us. We also have a historical connection to birding, and with that in mind, if you look out over here over Croton Bay and Croton Point in the distance, in the early 1930s there was a young art student from Jamestown, New York named Roger Torrey Peterson. He came down here and he's with the Bronx County Birding Club. They're doing the Christmas count out there. And he remarked about some bird flying overhead and what it was. And the guy behind him said, "Wow, you're really good at that." He goes, "Yeah, I use a series of field marks." And the guy goes, "You know something? You're an artist. If you make that a book, I'll make sure it's published." And he did. And it became the Peterson Field Guide to Birds. Ultimately, it became the Peterson Field Guide to almost everything. And it was the first book you took in the woods with you. And it probably, in my opinion, launched an environmental movement. So the beginning of birding, the beginning of that going out in and identifying things in the woods starts right out here, right in our community out across Croton Bay. And Croton Point, if we get an opportunity later, we're going to talk later about places to go, but that's a fantastic place to bird. It's got a 10.4 cubic million yards of garbage piled 132 feet high right in the middle of it. But it was sealed with a high-tech $40 million cage, and on top of it they create this perpetual grassland, which is a fantastic place to see birds. And there's a lot of walks out there, and the Croton Nature Center is really a great resource for birding. So we're really in a good spot. And we also have this historical connection. So I'll show you some of the stuff. I'm going to talk to you about some of the resources we could hook you up with at the library, including some ebooks that are available now, some of our other books. But the absolute best way to learn how to be a birder, and that's what it's called, birding, that's what the cool kids say, is to go on an organized walk with a local group, and we got some great ones around here. But if you can go on your first organized walk, let's say with Sawmill River Audubon, I'll give you a couple of tips that'll help you work out with them. First thing is show up early. That's my tip for everything. Wear appropriate foot gear. If you don't have a pair of binoculars, give them a shout and they may be able to hook you up with a pair of loaners. And please, talk to someone there and take the minute and a half it takes to adjust the binoculars to your eyes. It makes all the difference in the world. It makes it a huge improvement and tool to use when you're in the woods. Ultimately, if you go to buy your own pair of binoculars, talk to someone, a birder, who knows about it, and you can get a pretty decent pair for a little over $100. That's what these cost. Secondly, when you show up, don't wear white. You should never wear white in the woods. It's a good way to get shot in the fall, and it's a good way to alarm animals otherwise. Keep your eyes open. If you see something, say something. Don't point like that. Go, "Oh, look, an ivory-billed woodpecker." Don't do that. That scares the birds. Go, "Hey, look, a giant woodpecker. It's going to make us all rich and famous." Be a little subtle about it. As you're walking along, feel free to talk to the folks about, they love to share their information about what's going on and the birds you're expecting to see, but don't just shoot the breeze about whether the New York Football Giants are going to the Super Bowl or not. Because there's two reasons. First of all, of course they're going to the Super Bowl, so why talk about it? Secondly, some of the people on that walk are actually birding by ear. And all these chirps and little noises that we hear walking through the woods, they could identify as individual species, and that helps you put on to seeing more and more birds. And that's about it. Wear decent footwear. Don't bring your dog. It's not a good place to walk a dog. I love walking my dog in the woods and birding at the same time, but not in a group. And if you're going to bring a small child, talk to the leader beforehand, see if it's an appropriate walk for them. And remember, it's birding, we're birders. That's what the cool kids say. So by all means, go on Sawmill River Audubon's website, look for one of their public walks. Every time I go out with them, I learn something, and they love to share it. So by all means, get out there.
So we have resources available at the Ossining Public Library to help you bird now. They include several ebooks, which we've listed up here. I highly recommend any book by either Peterson, David Sibley, or Pete Dunn. They're great. A couple of the other things we listed above is the Sawmill River Audubon. We discussed them. They're a local group. They're over 1,000 people. They're great. Go on a walk with them. You'll learn something for sure. Teton Reservation's not far from here. It's part of our community. It's out by the lake out there. If a lot of people growing up here in Ossining who love the outdoors because of Teton, and I'm one of them. Great place to bring kids. And Cornell Birding, Cornell Ornithological, that is the final word on science on birds, and they're pretty much responsible for the two resources I'm going to talk about next. Everybody wants an app today, and the app to get for birding, as far as I'm concerned, is the Merlin birding app. It's free, it's from Cornell, and it'll walk you through the bird you're looking at and what type it is based on where you are, the time of year, and what it looks like. It's a really powerful tool. Another powerful tool you could use at home that's free is ebird.org, Cornell's website. It allows you to create your own page, keep data, and also contribute your data to their statistics so they can do global observations of birds. It's really cool. Check it out. If you're interested in the culture of birding, you could try and find the movie The Big Year. The Ossining Public Library doesn't have it, but it's around somewhere. It is probably the biggest stars to make the least amount of money in Hollywood history. Of the 45 million birders in the United States, I think 4 of them saw this movie, and I was one of them. I actually liked it. Who doesn't want to be the coolest guy on the planet? You know we all want to be James Bond. But the reality of it is, if you want to be James Bond, you got to be a birder. And I'll tell you why. When Ian Fleming was writing his James Bond novels, he lived in Jamaica, and he was a birder. When he was looking for a name of the new super spy, he used the name of the author of his favorite local birding guide, James Bond, an ornithologist from Philadelphia. That's him above. So if you want to be James Bond, got to start birding. Once again, my name is Scott Craven. I'm a part-time librarian's assistant with the Ossining Public Library. On behalf of myself and all the staff here at the Hudson River branch of the Ossining Public Library, we can't wait to see you back into the building and, more importantly, out on the river. Please take care.